So now that we have explored definite loops, indefinite loops, and infinite loops, the next loop structure we can study is called nested loops. Now, nested loops are nothing more than just a combination of different types of loops inside one another. Let's use an example to illustrate what nested loops are and how they can help us in programming. So consider we have a roller coaster which consists of 3 cars. First, second, and third. Each car can hold 4 people. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, suppose we have to create a program where we want to fill in these cars with these riders. Okay? Let's suppose we have the number of riders equals 4. So in order to illustrate the seating of riders in these cars, we can write multiple for loops, one for each car. Okay? So we say rider for rider in, and then we present this range function. We write this range function which says 0. It goes all the way up to number of riders. So in this case the number of rider is 4, so it will actually represent range something like this, 0 to 4, which will produce a sequence of numbers 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now once we have the sequence of numbers, this rider will basically get assigned this value and processed inside the for loop. So let's just say very simply, we print the rider and its value, rider number, and we say rider here. Let's just write down here, print this for loop is for car number 1. Okay? So for car number 1, we will have the riders 1 through 4 seated using this for loop. Now for car number 2, we have to do the same thing over. So this sequence of steps, we have to do it again. So we say print car 2, or let's just say we have print loading car 1. Okay, and over here we say loading car 2. All right, again we have to do the same for loop because we have to fill in 4 riders in car number 2. So we say for in range 0 to number of riders, and we print rider number, and let's just say it's the same thing, rider. So this is for car number 2. If you see, the number of steps are the same. Now in order to load car number 3, we again do the same thing. We print loading car number 3, and we write our for loop here. Okay, so in this case we only had 3 cars to fill. What if we have, let's say we have a train and it has like 150 bogies to fill. Now in order to do that, we have to write this for loop 150 times, which is obviously not practical. So we can shorten this by using nested loops. Let's see how we can do that. So we'll erase this one because this is all repetitive stuff. And since we have repetitive tasks, we can condense them using the loop. All right. So if you see, we were iterating for the riders in this for loop, and then we had multiple cars to process. So these multiple cars can be processed using another for loop, right, which will iterate over the number of cars available. So we can say here number of riders equals 4 and number of cars equal 3. Now what we can do is we can write another outer for loop for car in. We create a range 0 to number of cars. So this actually produces a sequence of values 0, 1 and 2 to represent 3 cars. Now once you have this for loop, it will go ahead and print inside this for loop, let's just say loading car, and we say the variable car. And so once it prints the statement loading car number 1, it will go ahead and now it will iterate over these loop, this inner loop. So the rider 0 through 3 will be seated inside car number 1. Once it finishes this loop, it will end the loop and it will go over and see car number 2. It will come inside, it will say loading car number 2, and then again it will go ahead and iterate over the riders to load all these riders in the second car. Once this loop finishes, it will go back in and see car number 3. It will print loading car number 3, load all the riders, and now the sequence is exhausted. Okay, we filled all the cars. So it will exit this outer for loop and continue with the rest of the program. Okay, so this for loop right here is called outer loop, and this for loop which is inside it is called inner loop. And you can have another for loop which is inside this for loop and keep on nesting. This is referred to as nested loops. So you see, we can actually shrink the number of lines of code very easily using the nested loops so that we don't have to do repetitions as we were doing in the example previously.